Hey Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatari Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhamsa Pivaracharya Asutta Sara Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhamsa Pivaracharya Asutta Sara Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavandi ki jai. Nam Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Giri Raj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. So, dear devotees, welcome to today's session. And we're doing text 44 of the Light of the Bhagavad. And it goes as follows. In the autumn season, all the reservoirs of water are full of lotus flowers. There are also flowers that resemble the lotus but are of a different class. Among them is a flower called Kumuda. When the sun rises, all the flowers but the Kumuda blossomed beautifully. Similarly, lotus-like men take pleasure in the advent of a responsible king, but men who are like the Kumuda do not like the existence of a king. So we see here that this Kumuda flower is being explained, that it's when the sun rises, the Kumuda flower doesn't blossom. So similarly, those people, Prabhupada mentions that lotus-like men takes pleasure in the advent of a responsible king, but men who are like the Kumuda do not like the existence of a king. So we see that nowadays there's no such things as kings. And this world is run by democracy. So they're presidents instead that are voted by the people and for the people. So let's see what Prabhupada has to say in the purport, and we will comment thereafter. In this age of Kali, people want their own government because the kings have become corrupt. Formerly, it was not like that. The sons of kings were trained under the guidance of a good Brahmana Acharya, just as the Pandavas and the Kauravas were put under the instruction of the qualified Brahmana professor, Sri Drona Acharya. Princes were rigidly trained in politics, economics, the military arts, ethics and morality, the sciences, and above all, devotional service to the Lord. Only after such good training were the princes allowed to be enthroned. When such a prince became king, then too he was guided by the advice of good brahmanas. Even in the Middle Ages, Maharaj Chandragupta was guided by the learned Brahmana Chanakya Pandit. In a monarchy, one man sufficiently trained was competent enough to conduct alone the business of the state. But in a democracy, no one is trained like a prince. Instead, politicians are voted to responsible posts of administration by diplomatic arrangements. In place of one king or supreme executive officer, in a democracy, there are so many quasi-kings: the president, the ministers, the deputy ministers, the secretaries, the assistant secretaries, the private secretaries, and the under secretaries. There are a number of parties: political, social, and communal. and there are party whips, party whims, and so on. But no one is well enough trained to look after the factual interests of the governed. It is so-called democratic government, corruption, sorry, in so-called democratic government, corruption is even more rampant than in the autocracy or monarchy. Men who want to flourish in the guise of servants of the people, who do not want a good king of the head of state. They are like the Kumuda flowers, which do not take pleasure in the sunrise. The word ku means bad and mud means pleasure. Persons who want to exploit the administrative power for their own self-interest do not like the presence of a good king. Although professing democracy, they want to be kings themselves. Thus, they compete for votes by bad propaganda and take pleasure in having politics but no king. Thieves and dacoits also take no pleasure in the presence of a good king, but it is in the interest of people in the interest of the people to have a well-trained king as head of the state. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chakatpate Gopesha Gopikanta Radhakanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Prandavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchikalpatarubhescha Kripasindubhevacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, dear devotees, we see here that the Bhagavatam is basically so vast, and it deals with so many topics, and subject matters, right? And here again, it's talking about the democracy of this world and how world's leaders are all corrupt, and they only think of their own pockets and how to become wealthy. But this, in the meanwhile, the citizens can basically go to hell in one sense, or just starve. So we see that one such king in those days, whenever the Bhagavatam was written, or there was a king called, the Srimad Bhagavatam talks about this King Vena, and he was basically of this caliber. So I will just read now from the Srimad Bhagavatam about King Vena, and we'll see what comes of this. That boy was born particularly in the dynasty of irreligion. His grandfather was death personified, and the boy grew up as a follower. He became a greatly irreligious person. So here it's talking about King Vena, being a very irreligious person. After fixing his bow and arrow, the cruel boy used to go to the forest and unnecessarily kill innocent deer. And as soon as he came, all the people would cry, "Here comes cruel Vena, here comes cruel Vena." The boy was so cruel that while playing with young boys of his age, he will kill them very unmercilessly, as if they were animals meant for slaughter. After seeing the cruel and merciless behavior of his son, Vena, King Anga punished him in different ways to reform him, but was unable to bring him to the path of gentleness. He thus became greatly aggrieved. The king thought to himself, persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. They must have worshipped the Lord in the previous lives so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable unhappiness caused by a bad son. A sinful son causes a person's reputation to vanish. His irreligious activities at home cause irreligion and quarrel among everyone, and this creates only endless anxiety. So we see here that this boy Vena, he's basically Prabhupada says irreligion personified. So we'll just go on and read some of his atrocious activities. So, so maybe I'll just narrate, when King Vena grew up and he became the king. So in this way, he was very hard-hearted, and he would kill people, and he would all the sin under the sun, he committed. He was like Jagai and Madai or worse. And, people used to fear him. So, once he approached the sages, and he appealed to the sages, and he said, you must just worship me. Why are you worshiping the demigods? What benefit are you going to get from them? Just worship me. I am the supreme personality of Godhead, and the demigods are under my control. So you just have to worship me. And, in this way, he began to blaspheme the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, and he would basically plunder and kill the brahmanas, and do so many atrocious things. So in this way, the brahmanas got together, and they said, no, we have to do something about this king, and because they're very displeased with him. So they decided to get rid of him. And they began to chant mantras, and thereby with the power of the sound of the mantra, they were able to kill him. So his mother obviously was very aggrieved, and she tried to preserve his body. So in the meanwhile, because there was no king, then the citizens, they would do the same activities that he was doing. They would plunder and steal and kill and all of these things. So then they thought, what, the sages thought, let's get together and we'll churn the body of Vena, and maybe some nice personality can come out of it. So then they started churn, and when they churned his thighs, then there was a black man with red eyes and red hair basically came out of it. And that's when the Nisada race was born. So the Nisada race is like a very degraded type of race, and they lived in the hills and the mountains, because they also was were like plunderers and rogues and cheaters, basically. So then they churned the arms of Vena, and from churning the arms of Vena, a male and female child appeared, and the male child was actually an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and the female child was in an incarnation of Lakshmi Devi. So we see it like this. The sages named the male child Prithu and the girl child Archie, and they said that in the future they shall marry, and they would basically rule the world. So this is what happened in time. The couple got married, and then they began to rule. And we see that because Prithu was the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, he ruled very, very nicely. And in this way, he actually brought so much of prosperity to the world. And so now what we'll do, we'll just go and read some of King Prithu's activities and how he basically ruled the world, and what happened. So we'll just go to the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 16, from 11 onwards, right? So there we go. King Prithu was born of the dead body of King Vena, as fire is produced from Arani wood. Thus King Prithu will always remain just like fire, and his enemies will not be able to approach him. Indeed, he will be unbearable to his enemies, for although staying very near him, they will never be able to approach him, but will have to remain as far away. No one will be able to overcome the strength of King Prithu. King Prithu will be able to see all the internal and external activities of everyone of his citizens. Still, no one will be able to know his system of espionage, and he himself will remain neutral regarding all matters of glorification or vilification paid to him. He will be exactly like air, the life force within the body, which is exhibited internally and externally, but is always neutral to all affairs. Since this king will always remain on the path of piety, he will be neutral to both his son and the sons of his enemies. If the son of his enemy is not punishable, he will not punish him. But if his own son is punishable, he will immediately punish him. Just as the sun god expands his rays up to the Arctic region without impedance, the influence of King Prithu will cover all tract of land up to the Arctic region and will remain undisturbed as long as he lives. This king will please everyone by his practical activities, and all of his citizens will remain very satisfied. Because of this, the citizens will take great satisfaction in accepting him as their ruler. The king will be firmly determined and always situated in truth. He will be a lover of the Brahminical culture and will render all service to old men and give shelter to all surrendered souls. Giving respect to all, he will always be merciful to the poor and innocent. The king will respect all women as if they were his own mother, and he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like the affectionate father to his citizens, and he will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees who always preach the glories of the Lord. The king will consider all embodied living entities as his own self, and he will always be increasing the pleasure of his friends. He will immediately associate with liberated persons, and he will be a chastising hand in all impious persons, to all impious persons. This king is the master of the three worlds, and is directly empowered by the supreme personality of Godhead. He is without change, and he is an incarnation of the supreme, known as Shaktavesha Avatar, being a liberated soul and completely learned. He sees all material varieties as meaningless because their basic principle is nations. So we see these are the glories of King Prithu, that he ruled the world, so wonderfully, and so everyone was at peace. And unlike Venu, uh, everyone was under his control, basically. When the lion travels to the forest with its tail turned upward, all minion animals hide themselves. Similarly, when Prithu will travel over his kingdom and vibrate the string of his bow, which is made of horns of goats and bulls, and is irresistible in battle, all demoniac rogues and thieves will hide themselves in all directions. So we see this is the way that Prithu ruled, basically, that everyone was under control, and there was no uh, thieves and plunderers and all of these things like what we have nowadays. This is Kali Yuga is so rife and so rampant, and all this is going, all the activities of King Vena is going on now in this Kali Yuga, right? And but when a saintly king rules at that time, when the saintly kings ruled, like King Yudhisthira and the Pandava brothers, then everything, the whole kingdom flourished, with prosperity. But we see nowadays, there's so much in the news and so much to say, basically, because of all the sinful activities that is going on. Just the other day, or just today, actually, I was looking at the news on YouTube, and I was seeing how, there's fires that are raging in the West, in basically America, and in America, and India is flooded. Delhi is flooded, and Uttarakhand is flooded. So there's so much of flood and devastation, and all is going on because of the sinful activities of the people, and all this climate change and all of this. What we're experiencing now, this weather, the intense weather situations around the world, is all due to the sinful activities of the people, and more because of all the leaders in society. So Prabhupada has created ISKCON to actually bring about like a Satya Yuga in Kali Yuga, because only in the association of devotees, like-minded people, like-minded devotees, can actually experience the Satya Yuga, the effects of Satya Yuga within Krishna consciousness in this material world, which is a blazing fire of a forest fire, basically. So we are like an oasis in this blazing forest fire. So yes, devotees, this is all going on because of all the sinful activities that's going on in this material world. And the most sinful, most, you know, actually the worst thing that anyone can do is to, the worst sinful activity is killing the cow, basically. And we see from this, you know, all of these sinful activities erupt, and the reactions is basically, you know, what we are actually experiencing nowadays. So with that said, you know, I don't have to go into details with that, because we are all basically feeling the effects of it, you know. And yeah, what more can be said? You know, we're all feeling the effects of, because it's collective karma basically, and we're all feeling the effects of it. But there's one saving grace, and that saving grace is Krishna consciousness. You know, Krishna consciousness doesn't only save us from sinful activities, but we have peace of mind. We have peace of mind by just chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You know, we have a peaceful mind at least. And we have to just concentrate on chanting the holy names and giving this chanting to everybody else. You know, Prabhupada, I was giving the class the other day in the temple, and I was saying that Prabhupada said, yes, all the leaders, they should give us all the money that they are, you know, basically spending. They should give it to us so that we'll make the best use of it in giving everyone the holy names and Krishna consciousness. He said everything that we do should, or actually Swarup Prabhu was giving a class the other day, and he says everything that we do in Krishna consciousness is just for us to be enabled to give people the opportunity to hear about Krishna. And just by hearing about Krishna, you know, all these sinful activities will be vanquished. So, so therefore Prabhupada said, yes, give us all the money and we can actually bring peace and prosperity to this world. Otherwise, you know, there'll just be chaos here. But, you know, how much can be said and how much can, you know, people take into consideration all of these things. We as devotees will have to just go out and do our best in preaching and bringing about peace in the world. So with this, I'd like to stop. And if anyone has any questions or you'd like to contribute, you're most welcome to do so. Hare Krishna. Anyone? You can unmute and speak.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the class. So we have family members and friends that are close to us, and they eat beef, okay? And we have love, and obviously we feel for them. We know what they're doing is wrong. So by us chanting, thinking of, you know, when we chant and we think of all these people and chant for them, will it help? Got lost? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I couldn't get the last part of your question.
Okay, so we have families and friends that eat beef, and as devotees, you know, we love them, you know, as personalities. And as devotees, like when we chant, we know it's wrong and we chant for them. Okay. Is it of any benefit to them?
Yes, well, Krishna will hear your prayers, and your prayers don't go in vain. So, he will try to assist them in whichever way. So, yeah, they will get some benefit from that, from your prayer. So,
Okay.
Krishna will, so Krishna will because you're a devotee and you are praying, and Krishna will actually assist them. So, yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone
Thank you,
else?
ma'am.
Krishna? Anyone else? Navkishori Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. No, I was just thinking from King Vena's example about the birth of human being, we should take advantage and surrender to Lord, lotus feet. And especially in this Purushottam Mass, we do more and more chanting and focusing on our attentive chanting. So I was just thinking like Shravanam Kirtanam also is a main, but our chanting we have to do very pakka. So I was just thinking about the human being form of our life to surrender to Lord only. Hare Krishna Mataji. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I lost you, Mataji. I think I don't know what went wrong here. So I didn't
No,
hear
Mataji,
anything
I was
that you
just
said. Can
saying
you
that
repeat?
human form of life, we should surrender to Lord after hearing King Vena and the Ajamil story and like that. So the way I was reading today Vitrasura also, the way he was telling Indra, Vitrasura became a very great devotee of the Lord. So I think when I read all these stories, and I was also thinking this human form of life, we should take shelter of Lord Shri Krishna's lotus feet and we surrender totally to the Lord's lotus feet. And with Sravanam and Kirtanam is a main, but we should make our chanting also very attentively. And we should try to do this month like a japa diary or something, and uh, we analyze ourselves every day about how our chanting is going. So I was just thinking that we should focus when we chant the our one like chant, and we close eyes and we should offer something like tulsi leaves or flower to the Lord of Lotus feet, and we finish that chanting and we can hear our own chanting by doing that also. So I was just thinking from King Vena's story that we shouldn't waste our remaining life like I wasted life like that in the past, so I shouldn't waste the further life by not surrendering to Lord. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna, thank you so much, Mataji. George, you had your hand up?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I know a devotee I don't know if he's really devotee, but he does chant though. I know there's a few things he's not following proper, actually right, but he's not actually good for my Krishna conscious, to put it in that way. But I can see he's like seeking devotee association. What is the best thing for me to do in a situation like that?
Okay, you just see, for a new person coming to Krishna consciousness, you just have to be kind and loving towards that person, and to give him association and Krishna consciousness as much as you can. So, for him to actually advance in Krishna consciousness, so you need to actually be, like is to set an example for him. You have to set an example for him. don't preach too much, because he wants devotee association, so he will learn from you slowly and surely, right? Give him some of Prabhupada's books to read, and just be kind and loving towards him. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, yes, Mataji, I understand. But this individual he's still got some bad habits and that sort of things. With me myself, I'm still practically still new in Krishna consciousness and still a little bit scared I can get influence, or there might be that chance. That's why I'm a little bit unsure. Should I associate with him? Should I not?
Well, you're in a good space. You live at the temple, right? So you're in a good space, and there's no way you can be influenced by him, because you basically got the association of devotees at the temple, and so you try your best to preach to him a little, and about the four regulative principles and all of that, but you tell him he has to try to chant Hare Krishna and try to give up these things. So you should not take his association, but you should give him your association. You should give him Krishna consciousness, but you shouldn't take his bad association. So that's what I'll have to say. It's a bit difficult, but you have to try. You try to be good with your sadhana first. You have to rise early, chant your rounds, and follow the four regulative principles. And just by your action, he will learn from you. So yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, I did ask you a question last week about how to preach about Krishna consciousness. So the way you gave me guidance about the preach to kids first, so it is helping me, and they are ready to learn Bhagavad Gita things, and they are ready to listen the Krishna Katha about the Lord pastime. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. That is so nice.
Yes,
Wow,
Mataji.
that's good.
So, all glories to you, Mataji, for your ideas, and I gave this idea to other my devotee friend also in Binoni. So she is also going to apply.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Well,
you,
I'm
Mataji.
glad I was of some service to you, by telling you how to actually deal with the kids. So yes, so thank you. At least, in this way, the preaching will carry on. Preaching will go on. And Srila Prabhupada will be so pleased with you, with your efforts, Mataji. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thanks to you, Mataji, because I was thinking long time how to do it. So, and few kids are ready to listen Krishna Katha, Lord pastime, and they are ready to learn Bhagavad Gita also. So thanks to you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we can just end with a short kirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Radha, Radha Nata Radha, Radha Nata Radhe, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhescha Kripasindhavevcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare
Dhanavad.
Krishna,
Hare
thank
Krishna
you.
Mataji, thank you very much. Dandava Pranam. Hari
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.